Good morning. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate it. This is a project that we're so excited about, and we're so excited about our event for today. My name is Robert Scott, and I'm the president of BayWork. Also, I'm the technical training program administrator at Valley Water. We do not take your attendance today lightly, and we know you have busy schedules, so the fact that you're here says a lot about the importance of us addressing and continuing to address issues related to the digital worker in the water and wastewater industry. We really want your engagement today. We want you to fight the temptation to multitask and get engaged with this, because this is going to impact the future of our industry. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, changes are coming. Technological changes are coming, and they're going to continue to come. And just to highlight that a little bit, I'm just going to date myself a little bit because when I was a kid, the way that we played football was on this electric vibrating thing. That was the game, the technology of it, and the most that we could get to mimicking the players we saw was in our mind. No image, just a little plastic thing with a piece of paper tucked in the side of them, and we plugged it into the wall socket and hit start power, and it just vibrated, and we hoped that our vibrating little man would make his way to the end zone. Nowadays, you got imagery, you got the actual picture or image video of the person with the body movements. They have the gait of the player, the attitude, the facial expressions. Things have changed in my lifetime, and I'm so amazed by it. And so these things are happening in our industry. And we have to wake up and begin to adopt them, so that we can take our industry forward. And so I want to really charge you today to engage so that we can begin to really plot our future as it pertains to digital tools and technology. So I'm so happy again that you're with us today. And I'm going to turn it over now to Catherine Curtis, and she'll talk to you a little bit more.
Thank you, Robert Scott. So I'd like to ask all of our participants to add your name and your organization into the chat so we can capture that. And as we go through the different presentations, please do enter your questions into the chat as well. Robert will be monitoring the chat and will help us bring the questions out later in the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you all see the PowerPoint before you?
Yes, we can.
Great. So I'm going to give a little introduction. This is our agenda for today. Robert just gave the welcome. I'll do an intro, and then these are our speakers. So we have a pretty full packed agenda for you. BayWork.org. BayWork is a water and wastewater consortium with our shared stakeholders in education and community-based organizations and professional affiliations. And we all have a shared commitment to workforce reliability in the water and wastewater sector. And if you want to obtain any of our products or any of our webinars, if you've missed the last two in the series, you can go to the BayWork.org resource page, and they will be there available for you. From the very conception of BayWork, we've developed this roadmap that has been with us throughout time, and everything we do is related to one of these four goals. Of course, qualified candidate development is huge in our industry right now, as is providing the training that we need for current and future workers, especially training, in this realm as it relates to digital worker. We want to optimize the use of all available staff, and everything we do is done through collaboration and based on research. Early on, we identified these areas as our mission critical classifications through a survey with the Community College Consortium. And we added engineer and collection operator a couple of years later, but these remain the mission critical classifications for our industry based on research. So why do a digital worker initiative? We want to help water and wastewater utilities everywhere make more effective use of digital tools. And we are getting viewed from all around the world on this topic. So what have we done so far? In 2019, we started with a survey on the use of digital tools for our member organizations. And then we decided to do a deeper dive. We also did a workforce convening back east on the workforce implications of digital tools. Then in 2020, we met with a large, medium, and small agency to do a deeper dive on the stories behind the survey and gathered more data. And then we did a full day utility management conference workshop on our white paper on the digital worker. And we had about 70 people come, and they stayed all through the day, which was really great. But we generated a lot of data in that workshop of what utilities needed to understand better about the digital worker. And we used that material to write the digital worker chapters, and that was published in 2021. And it can be found on our website. And then we did a webinar in June of 2021. And then we presented webinars to the World Bank and our training buffet, which we have every November, and the swim conference and others. And then in 2022, we did our live workshop in Oakland on the digital worker, which these webinars emulate. And now we're also published an industry report, The Skills Required for Digital Jobs. And this is our final product for this year, the Digital Worker Webinar Series, and this is the final one. In fiscal year 22-23, Noveen Omana from East Bay Mud is going to be heading up a digital workforce committee. We're in the process of planning, review, select, and prioritize what we need to do. The three things that we really want to do more than anything in the first 6 months to a year is work on that digital preparedness checklist that we talked about at the workshop, a how-to guide for how to prioritize your digital tools and select them to bring them into your agency. We want to do a digital workshop on wheels where we can actually go out and see people's systems and what they use. And then we want to take a look at that priority next steps and identify what we want to do. Nova's with us today. Thank you, Nova, for being here. And then finally, Cheryl Davis, Sharon Peters, and I are working collaboratively with Baywork and AWWA to develop an online course for digital literacy, which should be available around March of next year. It's not moving me forward. Okay, oh, here we go. So that's my intro. Does anybody have any questions? You can type them into the chat. I am going to stop sharing. And I would like to introduce our first speaker for the day. So the first speaker up is Andrew Ort. Andrew is a resilience practice area lead from West Yost Associates, and he has been our cybersecurity subject matter expert. So without further ado, here's Andrew Ort.
So thank you all for being here and giving me an opportunity to speak. So this morning I was sitting through Shane's presentation and I was thinking about my experience with digital tools. And I realized that about 11 years ago, I had my first really profound experience with a digital tool. So I was living in Alaska. My wife and I had just had twin boys. They were about 3 months old. One of them caught a virus called RSV. And if you're familiar with that, right, it's really tough to breathe, especially if you're just a little baby. So we said, okay, we're going to the hospital. Now, Providence Hospital in Anchorage, Alaska, this was the same night that they rolled out their Epic electronic record management system. That was a bad time to show up with a baby who couldn't breathe. So, we get shuffled through, the waiting room very quickly, everything is good, and then we need medicine for the little boy. And I'm sitting there, I'm getting more agitated. I'm like, hey, doctor, can we get him some medicine? Doctor's like, well, we got to put it into the system, and the system has to approve it. And, they're typing away furiously, and it's not working. And I'm like, hey, doctor, you should really give him some medicine. And then, he's like, yeah, I get it. And then I go, doctor, give him the medicine. And the doctor goes, yeah, we got to give him some medicine. We'll figure out the paperwork later. So they gave him the medicine, boy's fine, 11 years old, no big deal. But what it really illustrated to me in hindsight was that we have humans who are responsible, and they have to make the decisions, regardless of the tools that are being used, how they're being used, right? We are the licensed people as engineers, operators, etc. And therefore, we are responsible. So with that, thank you. I'd never told that story in public before, so it was that's good. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. So cybersecurity, lots is changing in our sector right now. Who here is familiar with some of the new regulations that have been proposed around a new organization that will regulate cybersecurity in the water sector? Anyone familiar with that? Okay. Thank you, Jim. So, that's coming, and it's probably coming this year. So, in addition to that, right, we've the increased awareness from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In December, as that was starting to loom, we started to get all of these advisories from Water ISAC, Department of Homeland Security, and it really, furthered the conversation that honestly really started with Oldsmar. Now, quick shout out to that operator at Oldsmar who caught that attack and fixed it, right? That guy deserves a gold star. And again, it comes back to the human being responsible. So, one of the things that's really changing here is that we, as the water sector, need a new group of people with a new set of skills. And we talked about that need. And if you go to cybersecurity conferences, they talk a lot about workforce development. So, and I'll come back to this kind of at the very end. But I'm curious, who here in all of their licensure, education, exams, everything else, who here has touched cybersecurity in some way? Who here has some responsibility for cybersecurity? All right, I would say we all do. So, with that, all right, so brief West Yost, right? We are about 200 people, California focused, do have people from Hawaii now to the upper Midwest. Now, one thing is that we are licensed cybersecurity partners with Idaho National Laboratory. Who here is familiar with INL and the good things they do on cybersecurity? Anyone? Okay, so especially for asset owners, they have exceptional training opportunities. They have something called Red Team, Blue Team, and then they have something called Consequence-Driven Cyber-Informed Engineering, which is kind of a mouthful. We call it CCE. Really great opportunities to learn a lot. So, I propose that cybersecurity is everybody's problem, and we'll get into that in a little bit of detail. So, the evolution of engineering, right? Used to be we had things like wheels attached to carts, and that was groundbreaking at the time. Now we have these elaborate systems, and they're all connected. Everything is networked. Almost everything is attached to the internet. Now I know some of you are saying, our facilities are not attached to the internet. And I say to that, can you prove it? Some people can. Some people can prove it with a high degree of confidence even. But it's hard to maintain, especially as all of the vendors of the MCCs and everything else, they want to get data back. They want to harvest that data. They want to help you with your maintenance. They want to contract with you for that maintenance. That opens up new avenues into your networks. So there are emerging best practices. Some of these you, of course, have seen before. There are standards set by AWWA. Top 20 secure PLC coding practices. This is something every organization can do. You're probably doing it a little bit already, but there's really, really important things that you can get better at. OT monitoring, I'm going to come back to that. And cyber-informed engineering, I joined West Yost about 3.5 years ago. I joined to do cyber-informed engineering. So, cyber-informed engineering, there's a lot on this slide. And mostly what I want you to take away is, a photo. That's perfect. But also I want it to be enshrined in the official record of the Baywork event. So, cyber-informed engineering, something that's really starting to emerge formally. And the intent is to change the way we engineer our systems to be more cyber resilient. So I met with a sanitary district yesterday, and we talked about this, and they went, oh, wow, we've been doing stuff so wrong for so long. And we said, everybody has, across sectors, but we have to get better. And there's this idea that, perhaps we can take everything we've learned over the last 100 years, come to today, make some really good decisions, so that perhaps for the next 100 years, we can be more cyber resilient. The cyber attacks, I don't like to get into the FUD, right? The fear, uncertainty, doom, doubt. I don't like to get too deep into that, but we do need to do better. And INL and the Department of Energy have recognized this to the point that there is going to be a national strategy document coming out sometime soon on CIE. The stated intent of this is so that engineers and owners will be held negligent if you do not consider cyber risk within your designs. So let's think about that statement and the enormity of that. I'm a licensed engineer. That makes me nervous. I'm sure it probably does some of you as well. Now, what's that? Yeah, okay. So now we also have a big pile of money headed our way. All of us have, to some extent, ideas and designs. Some of those designs have been sitting on the shelf for a long time. Before cybersecurity was even really a consideration. In the national security documents, cyber didn't show up until 2009. I mean, that's when it hit that level of understanding. So as you all take those designs off the shelf and build them, or design new ones, cyber-informed engineering is something you really need to do. So I always like to point out active process defense. So I think it was Monty's example of the operator who would give that sludge a little sniff and a little feel, right? That is active process defense. You're monitoring the health of the system in many different ways. Combine that with something fancy like OT monitoring, and you can really create compelling data streams where you can monitor the health of your system and infrastructure. So this is the different elements. We're not going to get into it. Other than cybersecurity culture, who here has an organization that does phishing tests? All right, excellent. John, you should raise your hand. Yeah. So who here, and you don't have to raise your hand, has failed a phishing test? Oh, okay. I appreciate it. Oh, Sharon, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. So I do cybersecurity for a living. I failed a phishing test. I brought so much shame on my family that day. But it kept me very humble, right? And I can go and I can tell people like this, tell people about that. So there's lots of things. Some of these elements, a water or wastewater utility honestly probably isn't going to be able to do it, at least for 5 or 10 years. Some of these other ones, you can do it today. Some of them you maybe already are doing. So I'm curious, who here considers themselves a defender of their system? Awesome, thank you. I agree. It is a mindset shift that we need to make as a sector, right? Our operators need to recognize that they are defenders now because the attack surface is global. So in about 2016, it was reported that the US Navy had decided to once again teach officer candidates how to navigate by the stars, right? Celestial navigation. You remember, you probably heard about a sextant at some point in your life. That's what they use for that. The reason they did this is they had realized that they were fully dependent on the global positioning system, and they could no longer be dependent 100% on that. So they went back hundreds of years. So I propose that we as a sector and as organizations, and take it a step further, communities and families, we have to decide what our celestial navigation is, and we have to go and do that, because our technology, there's a clear value proposition, and it's immense, but we have to have that backup. So with that, quick shout out, there's something called CyberChamp. For anybody who is trying to figure out how to staff and train, CyberChamp is an emerging tool. Just to give you a sense, we hire OT cybersecurity people, and when we have interns, we lose them to organizations like the NSA, INL, Bank of America, Ernst & Young, and Tesla. That's who we're competing with. You all will need to hire similar people. We need to grow a lot more of those people and train them. It's going to be a real challenge, and that's the same challenge across sectors. Linda. Thank you. Operations Technology. So that would come, maybe you call it a SCADA system or a DCS. Yep, thanks for the clarification. So here's some resources. Again, I just want to make sure they're in the official record. Thank you very much, everybody.
You talked about something that happened, I think, at Gold Star or something like that. What is that?
Oldsmar?
I guess so.
Yeah, okay. So Oldsmar is a small utility just south of Tampa, Florida. And a couple of days before the Super Bowl in 2021, they were hacked. And the operator observed someone moving the mouse around, and they increased some caustic, thank you, by 10,000, or something like that. And he said, wait a second. He's looking at it happening, and he said, this is not good. Oftentimes when we catch those sorts of things, it's because the attacker did something wrong. Had they done that at 1 in the morning, would anybody have noticed? No, because there was no alarm condition that went with it. So my understanding is that at the national level, there's a lot of concern that this could and will happen again. I mean, when it happened and it hit the news, my parents called me up and they said, Andrew, is the water safe to drink? I said, yes, Mom, yes, Dad. The water is safe. It just happened. And then I had to explain networking and air gapping and all of those concepts. And, it's kind of fun.
All right, we have a poll question, actually a couple poll questions. It's the same questions that Andrew asked the in-person audience that we want to ask this online audience. And so let me get the poll up, and we want to see what your responses are. I'm going to launch it now. All right. Question 1 is, does your organization's IT department conduct phishing tests? Yes or no, or not sure. And then the second question is, have you ever failed a phishing test? I know I have, unfortunately. But I see your responses coming in. Great. Give everyone a chance to respond. So we all have some level of responsibility, as Andrew said, and these phishing tests are designed to help us be aware of people trying to get into our systems. All right, I'll close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And now I'll share the results with everyone. All right. I see 86% have those who responded has phishing tests, and 43% have failed. Join the club. We're going to do better, right? We're going to do better. All right. Thanks for your responses, everyone.
Next, I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He's with us in person today. His name is Steve Mixes, and he is the Vice President from SKL Solutions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I on this way? So I'm going to be talking today, and basically I'm trying to spark interest on a lot of new technologies that are being used in Europe, Canada, East Coast. I'm not really seeing them pick up in California yet, but I've been known to delve into various technologies for collection systems. A little about me. I was an operations manager for Ross Valley Sanitary District for about 10 years, which was an amazing experience. Before that, I was a project manager at my uncle's company. It was a condition assessment / lining. We did all kinds of manhole rehab and condition assessment. So I got about 20 years of experience, and in that time, I've got several nicknames such as Batman with all the toys that I had at Ross Valley. So today I'm going to just briefly review mobile data mapping, also live digital communication, and then some new condition assessment technologies, and then training tools. And again, training tools are the most important aspect. You can have the best equipment, the best software in the world, but if you do not have a training program, you will fail. So one of the first things I highly recommend, and a lot of the agencies I'm working with right now, they don't have a CMMS. They think they do, but you want to get it right. You want to invest heavily, and it's got to be from the top down for the acquiring the money. But you have to involve your field staff, and that's we had a great time at Ross Valley. We had them. We worked with them on developing all the work orders and setting up the entire thing, so they had buy-in, and that's why I think it was a big success at Ross Valley. So some of the cool ways you can actually map your data now is with augmented reality. Does anyone use augmented reality at their agency? And so basically you're using all your information in your GIS, and you can see on the picture, you can walk around with a tablet, a phone, a HoloLens, and watch all your assets in pipe in the ground. And it's basically live, and it's dead on with the GNSS unit that's on top. And you can literally, with your fingers, move pipe out in the field and to where it's supposed to be, or the manhole where it's supposed to be, and it'll update your ArcGIS online. So it's just so much quicker, and it's actually incredibly cheap. The other thing I'm very interested in is reality capture. So you used to be able to do this with like a $65,000 piece of equipment. This image actually was done with iPhone, I think 12. And it's called photogeometry, and you basically go around your trench when you have it open, or a vault, your force main, and you take hundreds of pictures and it'll stitch it all together, and it'll geolocate it so you can have a slider bar. And the still pictures don't do it justice. Look it up on VGIS.io or YouTube. But it's amazing what you can capture. Again, here's another using your phone, and it is live out there. You'll just be walking around, and you'll see that trench right in the ground, and you'll know where all the laterals come in, any cross connections, where the water line is, and it just really helps you. And the data, it stays there. The other thing with VGIS is mixed reality. Trimble's has their own version of this, but you can walk around in the field and see all your manholes, your depths, where the pipes are, your storm drains, how they're coming around, and it gets even more incredible when you put on a Microsoft HoloLens 2. And you look kind of weird because you're out there doing your work orders with your fingers, but you can literally have your dashboard right in front of your head. And you can type in all you're typing in space, basically, and you're updating your GIS and all your asset inventory. And here's a little picture. You can literally walk around and see all your pipe defects on the asphalt, on your easements, and you can actually see, roots fine joint. You can see pictures of everything on the ground. And if you can't really understand until you actually experience it, but I do think this is the future. There's agencies in Europe using this, and basically the HoloLens, they embedded it and made it as safety glasses. So the operator can still be safe, have your hard hat on, and you can walk around and know where all your manholes are, your force main is. So it's quite an experience. The other thing I highly recommend, and we're helping a lot of agencies out, smaller agencies, is developing mobile applications for operations. And it's as simple as using, the Explorer app or Survey123, the collector app. And you can tie it in, you don't have to buy the $30,000 CMMS. You can work with ArcGIS and all their apps. But we had an amazing system with a Geotab, a GPS unit. And then we also had a fleet management software called Fleetio. And you're looking at $30 a vehicle, basically. And you're understanding exactly where they're driving, and it's live. So during an emergency, I could sit there on my phone while I'm driving, well, not while I'm driving, and I'd see all of my vehicles and the Vactors coming. I can see everything live. And having information is the most important for first responders. If you ever know anyone that's a fireman, they have so much technology, and they already know what's going on in the building that they're going to. And that's what we wanted to give our operators. So they had all the lateral cards, the lateral information. And the next thing, dashboards. Dashboards are so important. Every morning I got to Ross Valley, I had a 49-inch screen, and I had all my dashboards, and I knew exactly what everyone did the day before, and it was live. And again, we had some amazing talent and he's still there at Ross Valley, and he was able to incorporate our Geotab, our smart covers, and everything into one platform, so I didn't have like 8 screens. And then he used the Power BI. So if you're not using some of these systems, please contact SKL, or I can point you in the right direction. Okay, so live digital communication. I've tested this out with aerospace company. And basically, that's a HoloLens 2 on her head. And again, it's a hologram right next to you, and your supervisor or someone else could be right there and anywhere. So if you're in your pump station, it's hands-free, so you can get into your electrical panel and walk through what you're supposed to do. Again, a HoloLens, they have a 365 remote assist, and then the 365 guides. And you can basically scan a 5-horsepower pump, 400-horsepower pump, and you can create a hologram and basically take apart the entire pump and on a table. And if you have 4 different people around the table with HoloLenses on, you can actually see what the other person's taking apart. And you take them off, there's nothing there. But it's just, for training applications, I think it's going to be the next wave. And another fun thing, I was just showing my table, we scanned all our stations with Matterport, and it's the same as just doing a house scan for a home sale. So that's a 3-story building that creates a 3D model, and then you can actually put on VR goggles and walk through your whole station and operate, open up your lockout tagout, look through all your other SOPs. You can embed videos in it, and you can call your local realtor scanner. So this station costs, I think, $600 to scan the entire station, and then you receive the model and you put in these matter tags, and you have the ability to take 20 guys through a station without actually having the person go to the station. So that's another picture of a pump station 12. And the other good thing you can use Matterport for, or Leica 360, is for capital improvement projects for before and after and condition assessment. And the costs are just absolutely low. That station, I think, was $150 to scan. And then for outside mapping, the handheld versions are super cool. I didn't have the ability to get that yet, but I had the one on the left-hand side. And basically, it's an outdoor version of the Matterport. So we were able to scan easements and actually have a walkthrough of how the operator can actually bring the camera or the jet hose up the line or know exactly where that rod hole was. So LiDAR mapping, I think, is going to be huge, and the costs have come down absolutely dramatically. And then drones. I love drones. So basically, now they have drones that'll fly through storm drains, sanitary sewer. They're all pre-programmed flights. They'll understand where the obstacles are. And if there's anything wrong, they'll fly right back. And again, it's cheap. We're working right now on injecting hot air from a cured-in-place steam unit. And with a thermal camera on a drone, you can actually see, without smoke testing, you can see the hot air coming out of the ground, the manholes. And for anyone that has smoke tested, you know what a nightmare it is for doing public outreach. Well, imagine taking the smoke out of it. And then, wrong way. Training. And again, going back to training with holograms, there's some great videos I'll post on my website. But it's really cool, especially I was never a treatment plant person, but I think it has huge potential in treatment plants, pump stations, and anything mechanical. And then again, VR training, I think this is the last slide. And virtual reality training, a company called RIVR has done some amazing stuff for first responders, and I'll be working with them trying to create overflow response virtual reality trainings. And with that, any questions?
Great talk, Steve. I was wondering, have you used HoloLens for real-time performance support?
Yes. Yes, that's where it's, you know, you can see a picture of it and it doesn't do it justice, but when you're actually using it and talking to someone in Kentucky and they're right next to you as a hologram, it's phenomenal.
For the GPS device, can you use that for like USA marking for AC transit pipe? The one that augmented reality? Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Well, if you locate it and with the rod, then you'll know where it is.
So you have to put it into the system first?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, you have to have everything mapped, and that's what helps agencies that have bad data out in the field, and you can get your map changes done so much quicker. So much quicker, because you know it went from the little it was like 8 pieces of paper, authorizations, this and that, but it's just a lot quicker.
You mentioned some great tools there. How about the cost?
That's the cool part. When I first started some of these initiatives, it was totally cost prohibitive. But now there's, water and wastewater are one of the only industries that are not using some of these technologies. So I think there's going to be a massive ramp up, and just the potential, the costs have come down substantially, especially in the last 2 years. So when the HoloLens was $5,000, now it's like $2,000. And then the Office Dynamics, everything, the cost has come down so low because it's just such mainstream in the aerospace, petroleum industries. So the costs have definitely come down. And that's why now we can start using it.
I have lots of great ideas. I'm so excited. But on the HoloLens, like, how does that work if we have a certain type of pump? Like, does the manufacturer give that? How do you get the programming in there?
So you can do it yourself with the camera systems, and then basically you're creating a 3D model. You put it into a Revit or several different Autodesk products. You can do it in-house, but you figure if we all come together and we all create one model, there's only one 5-horsepower flight pump. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So coming up with that library of different tools, you can literally scan an entire Vactor 2100 series and walk around and dismantle it, or reduce it and I can put it on this podium. So there's all kinds of cool things, and it tracks every step of the training, and it's based on competency-based training.
Also on the drones and the thermals, like, what's the smallest size that you know of for like going in pipes?
Right now I think it's 15-inch.
1.5?
Yes, 15-inch. Thank you. So I'm sure they'll get smaller. I think there's going to be drones that will fly through your entire system in 5 years without you having to open up anything, and creating 3D models the whole way, and I think condition assessment is going to completely change.
So we're back here. From the standpoint of training, are you using this for like emergency services training or scenarios of testing people, seeing what happens?
That's my game plan moving forward. Right now I'm in pilot phase, and basically I want to be able to pull up to a site based anywhere in Google Street and put on and simulate an overflow coming out of a manhole, and then having an algorithm to see how much water is actually coming out of that manhole lid, and then having little dials that are holograms, and I can increase it from 1 gallon a minute to 200 gallons a minute.
Great. And then this is probably a loaded question, but I'll ask anyway. Do you see this kind of capability being used in testing for candidates and entry people coming in? In other words, assessing level of understanding and such?
There is, but I think it's 80% of people are good with VR. It's 20% get really nauseous, and it really messes them up. Yeah. but not me. I'm part of the 80.
We wouldn't want to say that the interview made him sick, but that, I understand. Thank you.
Okay, we have come to our comments and discussion phase. I'm going to ask you a question and you can respond by raising your hand, and Robert will call on you. If you don't know how to raise your hand, you just click on the reaction button down below and it's got a space where you can raise your hand there. Here's the question. Which technology discussed are you most interested in and why? So which technology, and Steve mentioned a bunch: augmented reality, reality capture, mixed reality, drones and thermal, holograms, virtual reality, HoloLens, LiDAR mapping, live digital communication, scanning assets, and Matterport and Leica. So,
All right, Nova, we see your hand. Go ahead and you can unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you, and I found that the presentation very interesting in the sense that we really seem to be a little bit on the leading edge of many firms using virtual reality. But what I find the most interesting is and what I'm hearing even in today's news, that Metaverse or Meta has now released a new headset that pictures everything in color. And so they are really trying to push, and I think what we're going to see is that what we call virtual reality is going to be closer and closer to reality, which seems to me just really brings up all kinds of things. So to me, things like perhaps scanning a field and saying, what is this going to look like with maybe a wastewater plant on it or something of that nature. It just strikes me that we have such a great opportunity. I'm curious, if you will, the audience's reaction around those perspectives. Do we see this as helping us individually or as entities, as a company, using the virtual reality in a grander way? And I'm just curious what the audience thoughts are.
Okay, thank you, Noel. Michelle? You can unmute yourself, Michelle. I see you, maybe you change your mind.
She may not have seen the opportunity to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go. All right.
you need
Steve.
to unmute Michelle. There you go.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. For some reason, my menu is not at the top. So, yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful program and thought process. I did something at my old company called Environmental Compliance Awareness Program, and I was really trying to tie GIS with regulations. I was in the regulatory department. So it was a great idea, but it never went, ECAP actually went through, but we never tied it to GIS. And so have you thought about that? I saw the list that you had put on your screen, but I didn't see regulations. Is that something that is doable?
In what aspect?
Like for the training, for example, your hologram training, if somebody were able to click on a process, just say like trickling filters or an air scrubber, would they be able to go on there and going, okay, this is the regulations tied to a specific?
Yes. So you can embed all kinds of videos, hyperlinks, basically any kind of multimedia platform you want. I'm more of a collections operator. Manager. So my regulatory aspect would be, I'm out in the field, I have a manhole overflows, I put on my HoloLens, I can automatically tell if it's 3 in the morning, I can go know exactly where the DI is, the drain inlet for the stormwater, and then I can follow it if it goes underneath, and I know exactly where to sample because of the outfall. So that's how I take it to the regulatory. And then just having basically your sewer overflow response packet in virtual form, and you're filling it out or commenting as you go. But the cool part is the HoloLens, while you're doing all this, or the new Meta version, I'm sure they're going to have for $1,500, it'll record everything as you're going. So for regulatory, for me to hand to the state water board from start to finish on a sewer overflow, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me.
Oh, yeah. Great, thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't see any other hands, so I think we're ready to move forward. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you. Next, it's my privilege to introduce to you Ting Liu. She is the business practice leader for digital solutions for clean water services in Oregon.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to talk with you about the lesson learned on the technology, AI technology we have done, a practical perspective from Clean Water Services. First, I want to lay some of the groundwork about why we are interested in AI. So in today's world, we have a limited data sharing. We have a limited time for decision makings. And there's a lot of things are part of the digital silos. We have individual softwares, and people are often making decisions based on experience rather than the data-driven decisions. And there's a limited analytics capabilities. So what I see in the future within the water sector, what we need is the holistic features and systems that we can have automatic data gathering, smart data collection and management, and it's more of a seamless sharing, holistic information and decision makings, and that can drive and enable insights to interactions and actionable results, and it's a one-stop shop. In order to make this happen, one big piece is the analytical engine, and what I call is the behind the scenes is utilizing big data and artificial applications. Although we are a few years out for fully utilizing AI application, I want to talk with you about some of the pilot studies we have done within Clean Water Services and key findings and the lesson learned from this project. One of the project we have done is utilizing AI machine learning to predict biological phosphorus removal performance. Within Clean Water Services, we use biological phosphorus performance removal process. And it's often hard because it's being influenced by so many factors, such as influent concentration and the load and the flow. So over the last few years, we have been working with a partner to develop an AI machine learning model, and the result has been great. So we are in the process of integrating this batch scale model to a full scale integration. So we bring SCADA data together, lab data together, and this is actually part of the WRF study 5121, that to bring all the data together and going through data management, data quality control, and then having that optimization for both short term, looking to optimum control as well as the future forecast. So what we learned is data integration is really the key. Another example we have done is with Princeton University is to predict influent flow for our wastewater plant. We have a toxicity-based ammonia limit for the effluent, and there is often this uncertainty about hydraulic throughput and how do we maximize the nitrification capacity during wet weather. So as a result of that, it could lead to operational risk. What we have done is leveraging AI machine learning model. So that's where people are coming together from operations, process engineers, IT professionals, and data scientists. And data scientists is looking to the optimum machine learning model, but the operations and the process engineers are really important to define that business problems and the criteria for the project's success. So this pilot has been very successful, and where we have also done is integrating the AI output and also utilizing a Power BI dashboard so that the operation staff can do play if scenarios, depends on what is the flow coming to the plant. So I talked about some of the water quality related AI applications. Another category we have done is to leverage imagery analysis and AI to classify land cover, as well as hopefully in the future predict land cover within a watershed scale. So we do a lot of stream restoration. And part of that is how do you understand the project site, what vegetation and land cover it is. It's really hard to go to individual project site. So we deployed and utilizing drone and remote sensing to help us to look into the large scale watershed health. And now we are leveraging AI and partner with Esri to first is to classify land cover. And so we are not only relying on the third party to having that sometimes the information is outdated. And this way we have a more of up-to-date land cover information. So again, this is another early stage AI pilot project we are working on, and hopefully that will in the future to help us to be more efficient on project planning. So these are a few different projects we have tested or in the process of a continuous validation for AI technology. What are the benefits for AI? What I see is a facilitation. It serves as a facilitation and a collaboration among operations, engineers, and data scientists to improve that decision makings. And I often call it is a quality of decisions. And also you can see that's integrating physical infrastructure with the digital infrastructure to inform and optimize performance and deliver actionable results. And it's really important to play what if scenarios. What if the plant is going to experience a high load or flow? How can we proactively identify strategies to reduce operational risk and meet compliance utilizing AI model? So what is the success of AI? What I see, the first thing is domain knowledge expertise. So this is from your business operations, your engineers to define that business questions. Why do you even need the technology at the first place? What are some of the challenges? The second, obviously, as we all talk about, is the data scientist. Data scientists play a key role. It needs to have some understanding about the water sector knowledge. And then the other piece is the end user experience. You need to have a user-friendly interface and dashboard, so operations and other staff willing to utilizing your AI output and results. It needs to be real-time and needs to be key integrated with other systems. And also, you need to consider the cybersecurity concerns as well here. Another big piece is data management, because AI is a model that requires the quality of data at the end of the day. A few other things we learned is defining project success criteria is really important, and building that confidence among different perspectives of the staff. Having a feel-safe plan, because sometimes your electricity could be off and you can't look into your system information real time. When that all become unavailable, how do you operate your system? Another thing is conducting a pilot testing. That's really important because depends on your the AI algorithm where it's being trained, and sometimes it's not easily applicable to your own systems and data. And AI is adaptive improvement as well as getting more data is going to be more accurate. So it does require your patience as well. But I do say this is a future that we can leverage a lot, utilizing AI to solve many problems within the water sector. Thank you.
All right, we have another poll question here for you. And I'm going to launch the poll. Yeah. Here we go. Here's the question. In what way do you think artificial intelligence can be used the most in the water sector or at your agency? And we have some choices there for predicting biological phosphorus removal, for predicting water quality, for improving decision-making, for identifying strategies to reduce operational risk, or other. And if you have another, just type it into the chat. We'd appreciate that. So the question is, again, in what way do you think AI can be used the most in the water sector or at your agency? Ting also mentioned for influent flow predictions. Okay. I see your response is coming in. I know some of you may be thinking and pondering, and give you a little bit more time. Again, if your answer is other, you can type it into the chat, whatever that might be. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll real shortly here. All right, closing the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And I'll share the results. Okay, we see 6 of you said for improving decision-making. And I see a couple of responses for predicting water quality and also identifying operational risk. Actually, we had 7 for that. Most were for operational risk. And then in the chat, someone said all the above. Thank you, Irene, for that. All right. Thanks for your responses, everybody. Please stay engaged. Catherine?
Next, it's my honor and privilege to introduce to you Jim Cooper. Jim is the Global Director for Water Optimization for Arcadis, and he will be presenting to you about artificial intelligence as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here to talk about artificial intelligence, and I know we have an exercise after this, but I'm technically the last presenter. They did that on purpose, so if any of you are just not interested, you can go ahead and leave, and you got all the content for the day. I hope to talk a little bit about AI. I'm going to talk a couple slides about what it can do, right? But that's not my entire presentation. The other 3 hours of my presentation are actually on how you can interact with AI. So because I am the last presenter, I guess I can talk for as long as I want to. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so last presentation, gonna get some audience participation here. Topic of artificial intelligence, right? Question, are you using it at all in your personal lives? Okay, let me ask a different question. Who has a smartphone? Right? Okay. Are you using it all in your work life? Yeah, yes or no? Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about how AI can be used in your work life, but I really want you to think about why AI is coming and not think about, I've heard a number of presentations, not just today, but all over the place of AI is coming, we need to be ready, right? And it's not really that perspective that I try to bring. It's more that the way we work is changing, and in a few years, in a year, in 10 years, it's going to be used everywhere, so we need to prepare ourselves for it and understand why and how, and really truly understand what it is, not just have perceptions of what it is. Maybe. Okay, so let me start with this. The greatest challenges we face in the water sector have absolutely changed over time. It wasn't that long ago, within many of our lifetimes, especially with some of the durations that people work here in the Bay Area, that engineering and designing looked like what you see on the screen there, with people that spent days and months drawing out city blocks and water mains and wastewater information, right? That was the most significant amount of the time, was actually drawing it out. Then technology like AutoCAD and CAD and BIM came along and took what would take months and put it into taking days and hours. And now we're at the point where those things can be fully automated, right? So they happen in seconds and minutes. So I think the greatest challenge we face today, or one of the greatest challenges, is working with data, right? I talk to many utilities, and many times they don't have access to the data that they need to make decisions, even though the utility is collecting it. Or they spend days and months trying to actually get access and figure out who owns or who's maintaining that data, what's the quality of that data, right? I think people think we're probably swimming through a data lake, right? We have too much data, and we're not even actually using it. Actually, there's a couple studies that came out in the, one specific to the water sector. Anyone have a guess of what percentage of data that's being collected by water utilities is actually being used? So it's about, ever. So it's about 10%. 10% of the data being collected is actually used in a meaningful way in the water sector. There's a separate study by the Harvard Business Review that looked at what percentage of data being collected in the industrial world meets basic quality standards so that you should actually use it to make decisions. And you want to know what percentage of data meets basic quality standards? It's about 10% as well, right? So here we're talking about using data, we're talking about cybersecurity, we're talking about sensors and technology supplementing our workforce, yet we only use 10% of the data that we have access to today, and only 10% of the data really meets quality standards that we should trust it to make those decisions. So a potential significant challenge. So I might ask the question, well, how much more data could we possibly need in the water sector, right? We've got all this data, how much more could we get there, right? It's really about analytics. Well, I think maybe to phrase it another way, I think we're truly only beginning in the amount of data we're going to be collecting and using in the water sector. So I wonder how long it is before your frontline staff, your operators, make a statement like this, right? I cannot operate or manage any individual asset without a live data stream for that specific asset. Now, if we think about pumps, obviously we have that today, right? But think about maybe individual segments of pipe or an individual hydrant or, a force main, et cetera. I think when we think about data, there's a whole world out there. I think that's really one of the primary drivers of why technology like AR and VR, the importance of cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning is going to be more embraced in the water sector as we move forward, because we have to have a tool that allows us to use that data and manage data. So I'm going to talk a couple things here real quick, and I do have a ton of slides, so I'm going to get through them kind of quick. When I talk about artificial intelligence, if I were to put a definition to it, I define that as the ability of a machine to sense, reason, engage, and learn in a manner that seems intelligent. A lot of people out there, a lot of companies out there have what's called machine learning, which I'm sure we've all heard of, and they call that artificial intelligence. In my opinion, that's just one piece of it. You don't have artificial intelligence if you have machine learning, right? That's like going out and buying 4 tires and say you have a brand new car when you can't really go very far. On the other hand, there's a term called collective intelligence. And that's the ability of humans and machines to collectively present a far greater solution to any problem than they could on their own. It's not just some fancy term that I came up with and we said it sounds great. There's an entire center at MIT that this is all they focus on. It's a Center for Collective Intelligence. They've presented hundreds and hundreds of problems. They take a room full of subject matter experts just like this, present a problem, tell them to come up with a solution. They present that same problem to a supercomputer to come up with a solution. In no instance have either group, the computer or the subject matter experts, come up with the best solution compared to when they allow the people to interact with the computer. And then that's the whole idea behind collective intelligence. So I'm going to give a practical example. This is truly just an eye test for people in the back, so there'll be a quiz later. But if you think about going out and making a decision to replace a pipe, right? There's a lot of things that might go into your mind as a human to replace that pipe. I put it in these 4 different little buckets that you see. One is the asset representation models. So your GIS, all your physical attributes, the age, condition, diameter, et cetera. There's physics-based models, right? So computer hydraulic models or water quality models or process models that are going to look at the operational conditions of that asset. There's also what I would call data-driven models that we traditionally associate with machine learning or AI, like looking at risk and predicting pipe risk for an individual asset, looking at lead service lines or predictive maintenance, et cetera. And then there's optimization models that might look at energy optimization, greenhouse gas reduction, right? We have all these different things. It's on us as the end user to kind of put all those together and say, okay, well, this one thing saying this other thing saying this, I guess we should make this pipe, a certain size. Or it actually doesn't even need replaced. Let's just keep it there. It's worked great for the past 100 years. Let's not change it. That's where technology can truly come in. Let the computer make all those connections between all those systems, right? Let the user have a dashboard that they can create, that they can get insight out of that, right? Let the computer work on the back end. At the end of the day, the computer is not replacing the person, right? It's just making their decisions much more stronger and much more valuable to the overall utility and to your customers. I told you I was going to have one slide that talks about applications of AI. I was just working with a utility that wanted to see where they could put AI in their water treatment facility. So this was just a quick list we came up with. I thought I'd share. Certainly not going to go through all this, but there's tons of opportunity where AI can be used and is being used across the water sector. So a couple examples: asset health twins, operational data streams, environmental data streams. One of the ways where we're seeing blockchain being used, because someone asked, is in security twins, where you have a distributed ledger, which is what we think of when we think of blockchain, that has a 100% complete record of all both physical and digital systems that you have. Their uptime, who's using them and accessing them, you have all that information. So there's a lot of opportunities out there where this is being used. So ask the question, are we swimming through a data lake? I truly believe we're only diving in right now into where we're going to be with the use of data, and we need to think about what are the tools and technologies that we have to actually use that data in a meaningful way. I'm going to leave you with 4 key points in about 10 seconds, so hang on. Data is evolving. I think most people in this room is probably going to think about data as spreadsheets, numbers, letters, databases, right? When I think about data, I think about a camera that's thermal imaging on the series of pumps and using computer vision to detect when the thermal footprint of some sort of physical asset changes, or a sound device in a facility that is sensing when you have a change there, right? We need to think differently about what we think about for data. Next is AI doesn't address our needs. People do, right? AI is not here to replace anybody. People enabled by new technology is what we call collective intelligence. Now, it's nothing different than when the water sector first started using spreadsheets, or when SCADA was implemented in the water sector. I think everyone probably had the same thoughts then that they do now about AI, right? And I think we've seen it's only enabled what we've done. I could be up here talking about how, maybe 30 years ago, we're all going to, on a normal daily basis in our jobs, be required to use the internet. I think everyone would probably say, yeah, right? Well, here we are. AI is no different than that, and probably will be coming in a much greater pace than the internet was. Will AI replace our workforce? Absolutely not, right? It allows us to make better decisions without it. Our table, we were talking about, one of the concepts that I try to get through when we're talking with utilities is you must have a human in the loop. If you're an IT guy, if you're an instrumentation and control guy, you think about control processes, there has to be a human in the loop, right, with your process. I could talk on and on for many different things. Happy to talk afterwards. I'm out of time and over a little bit, so I'm gonna be quiet, but I do have a couple real quick minor things. Who here thinks that piloting is an important step when you implement technology? Hey, I think that's the most people have raised their hand on a question today. Pilot people, not technology. The technology is already proven. You need to pilot how your people interact with the technology, how they work with the technology, and what you get out of it. So, with that, thank you.
So James, just a very quick question from your perspective. AI is a very powerful tool, but there's a lot of concern about what it returns in terms of answers. So the question is, how do we believe that what we're seeing is correct? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people have the misconception that AI is a magical black box, right? We're just going to give it data, we're going to install some new sensors, and it's going to tell us what to do, right? I think that couldn't be further from the truth. All it is an algorithm or a series of algorithms. It's very simple. Not going into all the different technical applications and what goes into AI, but I think of it no different than you using solver or regression analysis in a spreadsheet, right? It's just a different way of doing things and a different set of algorithms. It can very easily give you an answer that's the wrong answer, right? It's not going to give you the right answer every time. It's on us as the people to evaluate that data and make the final decisions.
How do you think systems or processes as autonomous vehicles can help us embrace AI's capabilities?
That is a great question. So truly, we could have a whole day presentation just about AI. And one of the subsections of that day would be about the moral implications of AI. So I'm going to answer your question in somewhat of a unique way. There's a website out there where you can, it presents two situations with a self-driving car, right? And you, as a human, decide which is favorable versus the other, right? And the situations are, for example, the brakes go out on your car. Does the car run through an intersection, or does it steer off into a building and crash, right? And then it says, okay, well, there's a grandma and a baby walking through the intersection, right? There's thousands of these cases. So there's this whole world out there of moral implications of AI, where if you get into thinking about automation and autonomy of AI, I think we're pretty far away from that in the water sector, because no one, whether it's us people, whether it's regulators, whether it's the public, is going to allow AI to make moral decisions on drinking water and public safety. I think that's a significant thing we need to understand. Again, just the reality of what we think AI might actually be versus how we can actually use it practically grounded to pick a pipe are two very different things many times.
All right, we have another poll for you. Let me get it up. And this is actually 3 questions that we're going to ask, and I'm going to launch it. The first question is the ability of machines to sense, reason, engage, and learn in a manner that seems intelligent defines what? AI or CI? Artificial intelligence or collective intelligence? And then the second question is the ability of humans and machines to collectively present far greater intelligence than either element could on its own defines what? AI or CI? And then the final question is the question we asked earlier, and we want to see with the new information, has your answers changed? And that is, in what way do you think artificial intelligence can be used the most in the water sector or at your agency? So there's 3 questions. Be sure to answer them all, and we'll give you sufficient time to do so. I see responses coming in, and I see some changes already. All right, we'll give you some more time. Again, there's 3 questions. Be sure to answer them all. Great, great. Give you just a little more time. be sure to get to question 3. I see more answers for, oh, I think everybody's getting there. Okay. Give you a little bit more time, and then we'll close the poll. Check the results. Really appreciate your engagement. All right, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, let's share these interesting results here. All right, for question 1, yes, the first definition is AI, the ability of machines to sense, reason, engage, and learn in a manner that seems intelligent defines artificial intelligence. And the answer to number 2 is collective intelligence, the ability of humans and machines to collectively present far greater intelligence than either element could on its own, defines collective intelligence. So most of you got the right answers for those, and we appreciate your participation. And the last question, I think there's been a little shift here. And
You need to scroll down, Robert. We can't see.
Can you see it now? I did scroll.
No, I can't see the third question.
You may have to scroll for yourself then.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And so here we have, again, this is the question that we asked early on. In what way do you think artificial intelligence can be used the most in the water sector? And 65% of you said for improving decision-making. I think we're starting to see that the AI, there's things that it does, but we still need the human element. And I think that came through quite clear. And it seems like everyone is picking that up. And so thanks again, everybody, for your responses. And we didn't have anybody that chose predicting biological phosphorus removal first. I remember that. No one said that one, chose that one. Well, at least one person thinks that is viable now. So great. Sounds good. I'm going to stop the share and we'll continue with our final presentation.
Wonderful. As Robert just said, this is our final presentation, and I'd like to introduce you to David Katsev. He is a senior civil engineer from East Bay Municipal Utility District, and he's going to speak to us about a pipeline project he was working on.
Hi, my name is David Katsev. I'm a senior civil engineer at East Bay MUD. I've been leading the pipeline rebuild program for the last 8 years. So what is rebuild? Number one, we're focused on our distribution system. We know we have a lot of main breaks. We want to reduce those main breaks. We know we have water loss. We want to reduce that water loss. So we set out on an initiative 8 years ago to develop a program to increase our pipeline replacement rate, to look for efficiencies, to look for ways to reduce our cost, to look for what is going to be that long-term sustainable replacement rate. Our overall goal is to replace this cast iron pipe as much as possible. This is our worst performing pipe right now. We have approximately 1,000 main breaks per year right now. 80% of those breaks are on our cast iron mains. So over the course of the last 8 years, we've done a number of pilot projects to look for ways to get more efficient. And in doing so, we've actually increased our replacement rate. 8 years ago, we were at 10 miles of replacements, and now we're above 20 miles of replacements. So we've doubled our rate. One of the first things that we always have to do is we have to figure out pipes to replace. And we want to make sure that we are replacing the right pipe. It costs us $2.5 million per mile right now to replace a pipe. So it's a really critical decision that we have to make early on in the process. So how do we do that? 7 to 8 years ago, we were just solely looking at main breaks and averages of main breaks over a particular pipe segment. Now, we have implemented a machine learning, artificial intelligence model that captures not only our main break data, but it looks for patterns in main breaks. It looks for patterns in materials, size of pipe, density of where our pipes are, slope stability, geohazards, fault zones, landslides, liquefaction areas. We look at all of our data, combine it into some machine learning algorithms, and the end result is a map of our whole system in GIS where we can visualize the risk. We have different ratings for each pipe. We refer to those as likelihood of failure. A low score, likelihood of failure of 1, means you have a good pipe. Likelihood of failure 5 is your worst rating. And we also look at that in terms of grades. A good, an LOF 1 is an A grade, and LOF 5 is an F grade. So what we can do is on our screen, we can look at our whole system, 4,000 miles of pipe. Every single segment has an LOF rating, all produced via machine learning and artificial intelligence, and that helps us select the projects. That helps us zero in on where those hot spots are, where those clusters of pipes that... Okay, so I talked about selecting the right pipe to replace. This is a map of our whole service area, East Bay Mud service area. This is all 4,000 miles of our pipe. The color code on this map right here is level of risk. So the red pipes are likelihood of failure high scores. The blue pipes are the LOF lower scores. This is mostly Oakland and Berkeley. I can zoom in, and as I zoom in, the resolution gets a little bit better. The color coding right there, so I can click on a pipe. I can find its material, its age, how many breaks, and then it'll tell me the remaining useful life of that pipe, which is all based on the machine learning algorithm that produce the level of risk. And so we use this tool actively, probably daily, to evaluate our work to make sure we're replacing the right pipe. Okay, so I'm on the digital application right now, and I can come into a pipe right here. This is a red pipe, so high likelihood of failure, high risk. I can click on that segment right there, and I'll scroll downhill over the left. It tells me the install year. So this is a 1910 pipe. It's cast iron material. It's 250 feet long, and it's a 4-inch diameter. Here's the thing that's interesting about this one. There's only been one break on this pipe, but our digital application tells us that it's our highest risk. And it tells us that because of machine learning. It tells us that because of the pattern recognition with, say, for example, other pipes from 1910 or this size or this location to look for high risk. And this application, this digital application, also tells me the RUL, the remaining useful life of this pipe, is only 1 year. So, of course, when we get this kind of data, these kind of results, a pipe like this rises to the top in terms of replacement selection and in terms of our prioritization. We're not really replacing the 1910 pipe as much as we are like the 1920s and 30s cast iron because it has a thicker wall and there's not as many main breaks. So what was interesting about that last pipe I chose, there was only one break on it and it said it was a really high risk pipe. That's the beauty of the machine learning. So here's another example. I can click on another segment here. This one also has a remaining useful life of 1 year, but if you look at more data behind this, this pipe actually has 7 breaks. It's a 1927 cast iron 6-inch. So one of the challenges I think we have here at East Bay Mud is we do have a lot of high risk pipe. So if you have a cast iron from 1927 that has 7 breaks, you have a cast iron from 1910 that only has 1 break, but they have the same risk score, which one are you going to go replace first? For us here at East Bay Mud, we're going to target those pipes that have broken the most. So even though they have the same risk score, this pipe that I just selected right here is actually in design right now, and we're going to replace it in the next year. So overall, really with our pipe selection process, digital is really the solution here, and we're continuing to refine our digital application. We continue to get a lot more data. We continue to refine the different algorithms. We continue to calibrate, the results with actual condition assessment data in the field, just to improve the old digital solution of selecting the right pipes to replace. So another digital thing that we're working on here at East Bay Mud, a solution to get more efficient, to lower cost, to get more productive in the field, has to do with ground penetrating radar and augmented reality. So the first step with all of that, and it's part of the design process, is to use ground penetrating radar to pick up utility data, underground utility data. So we'll first go out to a street, use the GPR to get the data. The second step is then to visualize it in 3 dimensions. So what you're looking at right here is actually GPR data shown in 3 dimensions. And our overall vision, overall digital solution here is to have our field staff have iPads in the field that then they can use augmented reality to visualize the underground utilities before we have to actually dig in the street and replace a pipe. So if you're out on the street, you've got your iPad, you bring up your augmented reality. The blue here are water lines. The yellow is a gas and the green is a sewer. You can visualize where that underground congestion is before you start to dig in the street. So what can this do for us? We can gain efficiencies in our production by knowing what's underground. And we can also be more safe. We can know where those utilities are. So theoretically, we don't actually break them when we're digging. So it's just more data. It's more digital data to help inform our construction crews in the field and get more productive. So to close, thank you for your participation. Baywork is a key partner of East Bay Mud. We appreciate the opportunities to collaborate with everyone around the Bay Area and look forward to more engagement into the future. So thank you very much.
All right, we have a question for you, Catherine.
All right, thank you, Robert. Again, just raise your hand electronically in the reaction section. Here's your question. Which application of technology mentioned are you mostly interested in? And he mentioned ground penetrated radar, GPR, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So Robert will mind the comment section.
All right, no, just unmute yourself, you can speak.
Like I say, this is the artificial intelligence and all the virtual reality. It's just so doggone interesting. But augmented reality in the work that we do here is so vital because you've got so many things, if you will. There's the landscape, there's the machinery, there's the plant, if you will, and so on. And augmented reality will give you that overlay when you're looking at the reality and overlaying what it is you're looking at, the plans, whatever the pipe, whatever it may be. I think there's some tremendous extension to that. And I suspect the hardware and the software doing that is going to be even more advanced as time goes on. I think it's going to be something that we're not going to have to wear these heavy glasses or have nausea or whatever the case may be doing this. It'll be almost embedded within things. If you remember the Google Glass, which kind of came and went, the idea is that had virtually the perspective I just wear a very simple pair of glasses to do a lot of things. So that's of great interest to me. It has great applicability, I think.
Thank you, Noel. Any other comments? Raise your hand. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat or raise your hand and you can just verbally ask your question. What did you think about the comment that was made, even from some other presentations, like for instance, Jim talked about don't pilot people. He said, don't pilot technology. It's already proven, but pilot people. Anyone have any thoughts about that?
I love that statement, and it is absolutely true. I brought in a lot of technology, and I had like deer in the headlights looking at me like, what the heck is this? and they're like, really makes this? But you really want to engage them, lay a groundwork, a roadmap for them, and understand how is this going to improve their working condition. And because if you just throw stuff at them, they can make it fail easily. So getting the buy-in, making it exciting. There's a lot of stuff I wanted to implement that I never implemented because the guy said no. So getting their buy-in was essential for me.
So with any change in your organization, you need to really factor in the culture change and the challenges and how to get buy-in from people to use these technologies. And you might even want to have some case studies to show your management where these particular technologies have worked in the water and wastewater industry. But not only that, we should be looking at other industries to see what kind of technology they use. I think we're a little bit behind the times because, you know, manufacturing, oil and gas, aerospace, transportation, energy, all of us use these digital tools and we use them differently. So just some thoughts.
Thanks for that, Catherine. Anyone else? If you raise your hand, I'll allow you to go ahead and speak. And while you're thinking about that, what about the comment that Jim made that AI will sometimes give you the wrong answer? Any thoughts about that? Go ahead, Noah.
You know, I'm always going to have a comment. No, what's interesting is that is a very hot topic these days, where the amassing of data is so significant that we really don't question what it is that AI is bringing back as an answer. And I think that we're going to find that that's going to be a very key situation of being able to trust your AI by testing and making sure it's giving you answers that make sense. I will say the autonomous car is probably a great opportunity where it says, you know, we've had some wrong answers that have resulted in crashes. So we'll just put it that way. But the idea is that we do need to be very cognizant of the fact that the more we rely upon it, the more we need to test it. And you will find that that's going to be across all the disciplines, I believe. So that's my comment to that.
What was that, Steve?
I completely agree. That's nailed it.
Thank you.
All right, any other thoughts or comments? Anyone? So we're all ready to attack the digital world.
Before it attacks us, right?
Yeah.
So is there anyone on the webinar today that attended the live workshop and attended these series? And did you pick up extra stuff by watching the series? Because for me, sometimes I need to see information more than once for it to penetrate. James, are you still on the line? Well, I find that every time I see these videos, I always pick up a new thing. So it's worth reviewing and it's worth sharing and having discussions at your agencies about these technologies.
All right, well, we're so thankful that you guys joined us today. We appreciate your presence and your comments and your engagement and participation. We're trying to collectively move forward our industry and make sure that as the Bayworks core value is that we don't believe we can have operational reliability without workforce reliability. So our focus is you, the worker, and we're going to have to be able to engage with technology in a constructive way so that we can obtain operational reliability and because our workers are reliable. And so I hope that this didn't intimidate or scare anyone with these new technologies, but actually empower you to move forward and be able to engage and use these technologies for our advantage. And the human element is needed. James says he's still here in the chat. And let's see, I don't know, James, if you had a comment to make. Let's see if we can unmute you here. There we go.
So yes, this is James Sparks. I did attend both the in-person seminar and I've attended these 3 webinars. And yes, I did gain something from attending all of these webinars because just in person, you know, there's a lot always going on in the room, different questions being asked, whether it's at your individual table or a question on the other side of the room. So this webinar kind of gave me an opportunity to hone in on the discussion from the presentation and, you know, just gather more information. You know, sometimes I might have missed something during the original presentation. So it gave me an opportunity to, again, view the presentation and then obtain new information that I might have missed the first time around. So this, I believe, was a great opportunity for all, even people that attended the in-person, and it allowed individuals that weren't given that opportunity to attend to receive the presentations and obtain this new information. So yes, this was a great tool and I enjoyed it and hope we continue to present these webinars.
James, tell us your agency that you work for and your position.
So I'm with SFPUC. I'm with the Water Supply and Treatment Division. My current position, I am an acting chief. I am the training chief for system operations within the Water Supply and Treatment Division. And I'm responsible for getting this information out to our SysOp staff. So when we have these different webinars or seminars, I'm kind of tasked with presenting them with the information so they can register to attend these. Not everyone's a part of Bayworks. So, you know, anything that comes across my email related to Bayworks or any other organization, I pass that information on.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
Thanks, James. Appreciate it. We added a couple presentations there, James, that you hadn't seen because they weren't at the in-person. But yes, we appreciate your comments. So everyone, we're glad that you joined us today again. The survey link is in the chat. And also when the webinar ends, you'll have, it'll prompt you to complete the survey as well. We really want to get your feedback and we'll also send an email the survey to you as well. And we just want to thank you for your participation. I think this series has been great. Our Bayworks Digital Worker Initiative is not over. And it is in our mind that it will never be over because we know technology will continue to change. And what we want to do is stay ahead of the curve as best as we can and to keep our workforce equipped to use these tools in a way that we can that will lead to operational reliability. And so stay on board with us, please stay engaged, and let's continue to push these things forward collectively because we can do more together than we can separately. In fact, Steve mentioned that in his presentation, that when we are making these images of the equipment, say for a flight pump or something, then if we can network that and share that, then everybody doesn't have to go through the process And so that's one example of how collaboration will help us use these digital tools and stuff. And so stay engaged with us. We're going to be starting, and Catherine mentioned this earlier, starting a digital worker work group that Nova's going to work with us on. And so we need people to be a part of that so that we can continue to move forward with the digital worker initiative so that we can stay on top of things. So thanks again for joining us today. We appreciate, please complete our survey, and we look forward to seeing you at another event really, really soon. And so stay tuned. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon. Stay safe.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.